So, do you want to get a sense of where the market is at today, effective of Halloween of 2023? Well, actually, I'm recording this video the day before Halloween, but in general, I want to give you kind of a sense of what we've been experiencing over the last 90 to 120 days here in the Rochester area marketplace. Maybe a little bit about what's going on a national stage as well. But in this video, I'm going to break down kind of the basics of what I'm seeing from a feet in the street experience representing buyers and representing sellers here in the Rochester area marketplace. Before I get too deep into this, my name is Alex Mayer. If it's your first time to the channel, I'm associate broker over at eXp Realty, winner of Best Real Estate Agent for the years of 2022 and 2023 for Southeast Minnesota. I've represented hundreds of Rochester area locals in the purchase and sale of real estate here in the area, and I currently have over 160 five-star reviews online. So you're welcome to look at those things as well, just to verify that I know what it is that I am talking about. If you are looking to make a move here in the Rochester area, whether that's next week, next month, or tomorrow, reach out to me directly. I am easy to connect with. I'm in a hurry to serve, and I love teaching these things to people. I still show up every day with a smile on my face, and I like to do great work. So every single day, I'm getting messages, phone calls, text messages for people just like you. So if this is something you are looking to do, please reach out and I will get you everything that I possibly can in regards to those things. So I'm going to really break this down into three key components. The first one is going to be what we are seeing on a national stage, what we are seeing from a market trends standpoint, and then I'm going to break down what I am seeing as someone who's actually actively watching buyers and sellers negotiate the purchase of real estate and look at real estate here in Rochester today. So let's dive in. So I'm actually getting a good portion of my national research from the National Association of Realtors website today. This is something I pay attention to pretty regularly. I'm very detailed and analytical when it comes to the data and analytics. I want to know exactly what's happening on a national stage. I always like to focus on what's going on here in the local Rochester area market as well. For that, I use a system that's tied directly to our local MLS that I pay for, so that I can see exactly what's happening from a day-to-day basis, so that I can share that with my clients, so that when we're out there making offers, when we're out there getting ready to list a house for sale, we're able to make sure that we're making good, intelligent decisions on what it is that we're actually doing with the house that we're selling or on the house that we are making an offer on. But pulling off the information on the national statistics, as of today, the median sales price here in the United States is $394,300. That is actually a little bit higher than what it is here in the city of Rochester. I know if you are a local to Rochester, you might think that that price is a little bit outrageous, but I always tell people that prices being high or low is kind of relative to where you're at. I get a lot of clients who are moving here from San Francisco, Miami, Anchorage, Alaska, and for them, they think these prices are pretty low. On the flip side, I was actually raised in a small town in Iowa. If you tell people in my small town, Iowa, the median sales price is here, they think that we are nuts to spend what we are spending. The biggest problem that we're seeing right now is that interest rates are currently approaching over that 8% mark. Now, that always will depend on that individual person's credit, their income, their history, which bank it is that you ultimately look into working with, and the financing overall. I always tell people, don't just take one bank's word for it as to what your rates and what your terms and costs are going to be. I always encourage people to shop around to a multitude of different banks. There are also some different financing program options that I will encourage people to look into as well. It's a little bit in the weeds, but I just want to let people know the interest rates are currently higher right now, and this is actually affecting a lot of people's opinions on the ability to purchase a home here in the market, and definitely affordability overall. If you think about it, if you are a current homeowner here in the Rochester area, and maybe you have an interest rate that is below 4%, which a significant portion of the population currently does, they may not be too interested in selling their current home in order to purchase that next one. Now, when I do talk to sellers who currently have a lower interest rate and they definitely need to purchase that next home, whether that's for work or a new job relocation, maybe a life change, maybe they have a growing family, maybe they're downsizing, I always ask those people, when is going to be the right time? There's never really going to be a perfect time to purchase real estate. There's a great quote out there. I'm not entirely sure who said it. It said, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. I always tell people you have to determine when is the best time for you to purchase a home, not necessarily when it is going to be advantageous to time the market. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later when I talk about what I expect to happen over the course of the next 6 to 9 months here in the local Rochester area market. But on a national stage, we are seeing a fewer amount of homes come onto the market. We are seeing fewer pre-approvals coming out as well. So we kind of see both less inventory and demand shrinking at the same time. Now, I don't want people to go out there and think that means that you're going to be able to get an amazing deal on a home when you're out there making an offer right now, because this is definitely a situation where we are still seeing negotiations, and most listings, according to our current local Rochester area market, are still selling for 100% of the list to sale price ratio. Now, I'll talk about that a little bit later in the third segment, but I want people to understand from a national stage right now, we are seeing a tightening up of inventory. We are seeing higher interest rates overall, and we are seeing a decrease in the total number of buyers that are actively in the marketplace. For this next part, I'm actually going to pull up the current data and analytics here in the Rochester area marketplace. So what I'm going to use for that is a system called InfoSparks. Now, InfoSparks is tied directly to our local MLS. So I have this currently screened to just here in the city of Rochester. So if you're looking outside the city of Rochester, reach out to me directly and I'll give you a little bit more specifics on what we can expect in those areas. Typically, in most of those markets, they will be lower sales prices and it will be a little bit slower marketplace. Now, that's not always the case, of course. So just make sure to reach out to me and I'll have a deeper conversation with you about that. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in just a moment. Before I do, I always like to make it clear to people that the data and analytics is usually about 6 to 8 weeks behind what the market is currently doing. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you are purchasing a home today, there's a good chance that's going to take anywhere between 30 and 60 days for us to close on that home, depending on financing, different contingencies, things like that, right? So houses that are actually closing today are actually houses that may have gone under contract 30 to 60 days ago. That's not actually what's actually currently happening in today's active marketplace. This is actually a conversation I have with a lot of people when I'm talking about what is actually happening in the media, when the media is telling us that something is happening versus what is I'm actually seeing on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. So hopefully this is showing up all right. This is InfoSparks. You can see right here that this is breaking down all the price ranges in the city of Rochester. Now, I did screen this for single family homes. I always like to kind of play around with the condos and single family homes and kind of go through it that way as well. If I go at all properties right now and I go on a rolling 12-month, you'll actually see that the median sales price here in Rochester is actually only $300,000. So it has actually dropped a significant portion from what it was even just last year. So really only $5,000 from last year at the height of $309 the year before. Now, if I put this on a monthly basis, of course, you can see it actually changes significantly, right, by all different property types. Now, if I also screen this for single family homes, if you can see this here, you'll see that we're not just looking at, townhomes, condos, or even, new construction properties, but we're looking at single family homes here in the Rochester area. You can see that it actually shifts quite dramatically. So we oftentimes will use the median over the course of a year. You can see that over the course of the last several months, you can see even from like March, April, May of last year to where prices were at. And then we had a slight uptick in that March, April, May, June time period this year. And then we saw interest rates go up another 1 to 1.5% on a national stage. And you can see this really sharp decline about what's happening in the market today. Now, if we look back at where it was last year, you can see there was also a steep decline at the same time there as well. We won't actually know where October falls until probably 2 days from now. So when I get that, I'll pull up a local market update in a few days. So I want to get something out for Halloween. And you can see where the median sales price right now here in Rochester for a single family home is $305,000. Now, I can also play around with this a little bit more. I can look at, townhomes and condos, $275,000. I can just go to condos here in Rochester. I can see $249,900. Again, I can go around and I can play with this on a rolling month-to-month basis. But main key point right now, as you can see, the median sales price here in Rochester is actually $300,000 for all property types here in the Rochester area marketplace. A few other things that I like to pay attention to are days on market. That's how many days it's going to take for a house to sell here in the Rochester area. And you can see it's actually currently standing at 12 days on the market. So it's actually decreased. So this is a conversation I'm having with sellers right now when they think that it's a bad time to sell because of the higher interest rates. They don't think their house is going to sell quickly. Well, we're still looking at a median number of days on market of 12. Now, if I go ahead and I hit average on this, this is going to go up pretty high. And the reason for that is we're also taking in those new construction home properties as well, which is going to really skew those things out to the other direction. Right? Skewing is where we have like a portion of outliers in the system that are just going to drag it way up. But you can even see in those heights of the COVID years, we were still really low at that. And then it's just gone up significantly since then. I also like to point out sales price, right? So if we look at well, not sales price, I wanted to show percentage of original list price is still at 100%, has been for a few years here in the area. Now, if I put this on a monthly basis, you can still see we're still looking at about roughly 100% on a listed sales price ratio. Now, when I share these things with people, I always want to make clear to them that these are, again, data and analytics. It's not always going to tell us the full story. When I'm looking at a property telling me that it's selling for 2% over the list to sale price, there might be a situation where that property was priced lower in order to get multiple offers and to sell quicker. There might be a situation where maybe I'm out there representing a buyer and I see a listing. I'm like, it just seems a little bit too high price. I pull a few different reports using a few different systems to look at what I think that property might actually be worth, comparable sales in the neighborhood, market trends, things like that, to determine what I think a good value for that property is when we're actually out there looking at those houses. But I don't want people to assume that means that every house on the market is going to be selling for 100% of the listed sales price. That is just simply not the case. In the vast majority of situations right now, what I'm seeing in the marketplace is we are still selling for list to sales price ratio of 100%, but we are able to get additional terms and potentially even getting the seller to pay a portion of the buyer's closing costs, which I'll actually explain here in the next segment. All right, so what is actually happening on a day-to-day basis in the Rochester area marketplace today? This is what I think should be the meat and potatoes of this really whole video content overall, is I always like to explain to my clients that there is a feet in the street perspective on what is actually happening in the marketplace. Like I said earlier, the data and analytics oftentimes is 6 to 8 weeks behind what's actually actively going on in our current real estate market here in Rochester. And it's my job as a real estate professional to make sure that I'm articulating to clients what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis. Oftentimes when I'm representing a seller, I might have a conversation with them where I explain that my opinion of what we list your house for might actually change from 1 week to the next, depending on what is actually going on in the active market overall. When I started to see interest rates start trickling up again, starting around that August time period this year, I started having some deeper conversations with my sellers about what I think we should be listing properties for. Actually, right now, I feel this is probably one of the best times that I've seen in my career for buyers to actually be out shopping for homes. Now, you're not going to be able to buy a house for 10 to 20% below what the current market value is, but you are going to probably be able to get some terms that just weren't available to people a year, 2 years ago, definitely not 3 years ago at the height of COVID. Back in the early 2020, 2021, people were offering to pay their own closing costs. They were putting a significant amount of more money down. We were seeing appraisal gap coverages, which is a situation where a buyer agrees to pay above the appraisal value in the event that there is a deficiency. It's a little in the weeds right now. If you want to know a little more about that, just reach out to me and I'll explain that a little bit more deeper. But today, I'm seeing people put roughly a third or a quarter as much down to purchase a home as what they were even just 18 months ago. Today is a much more advantageous market for a buyer because it's less competitive. You're still more likely to be competing with other buyers in the marketplace, but you're not as likely to run into a situation where we're going to see 3 to 4 offers on a property. In fact, in the last 90 days, I would say that 10 out of the last 12 transactions that I help people navigate through had some level of the seller contributing towards the buyer's closing costs. So what that means is the buyer can actually ask the seller to pay for a lot of their financing deals. Common down payment here in the Rochester market is usually anywhere between 3 and 5% for first-time home buyers, typically anywhere between 15 and 25% for second-time home buyers, people who are selling their first home to purchase their next one. And that's another point I want to touch on real quickly as well, is a lot of sellers right now have a substantial amount of equity in their current home that can be used to cash out, go off and pay off a lot of those other debts that you might currently have, student loans, auto loans, credit card debt, and you can essentially reset your finances and then purchase that next home and maybe even have a little bit more money left over. This is a deep conversation I have with people who are struggling with a few things financially. Is there's a good opportunity for them to sell their home, take a lot of that equity that they have out of it, purchase the next home, get that nicer, newer house, and at the same time, kind of reset their finances so they're back to a good foundation. Really great way to get what we call nails in the really resetting the financing world. You get nails, you get everything kind of stacked in line and orderly, right? But for buyers right now, there's a very good chance that you're able to buy a house for as little as 3 to 5% down. And there's actually a few different programs I always tell buyers about. The first one is a USDA loan, a rural development loan. You may have heard this referred to as. You cannot purchase in the city of Rochester, but a lot of these surrounding communities in the area do allow it. You can actually purchase a house for 0% down. I've actually had situations in my career where buyers got money back utilizing that program. It's a very real program. You just need to make sure you're talking to the right loan officer to make sure that you're able to utilize it. The second program that I absolutely love is the Minnesota Housing Loan. Now, this is a secondary loan that oftentimes is interest free. You'd have to make sure you clear it with the bank. There's a few different banks that actually offer this program, and they actually get anywhere between I think it's 16,000. It is 16,500 you get from the state of Minnesota in an interest free loan to help you with your down payment and closing costs. The stipulations that I've been told are you have to make less than $140,000 as a household income, and you have to pay at least $1,000 out of your own pocket, and you also have to take a one-time online homebuyer education course, which I'm told is actually very easy to do. About 2 years ago, I had a client who actually came into my office and we did it together, and it took us like 15 minutes. We didn't even really have to watch the videos. It's kind of a no-brainer questions, if that makes sense, right? But it's a really great program. With that utilization of that program, even in just the last 3 months, I've had 3 clients who have used that program. They've actually purchased a house for less than $2,000 to $3,000 out of pocket. So a very, very real program. But the big difference right now is if you have anywhere between 3 and 5% down and you are currently renting, it's a very good opportunity right now to purchase that starter home, get ready to start building up some equity and start moving along with those situations on that way. For my people right now who currently are in the midst of owning their first home and they are maybe outgrowing that home for whatever reason it is in their life, this is a good opportunity for them to sell that house, purchase the next one. You are probably going to have a higher payment for a significant period of time with the higher interest rates that we're seeing today. They're really just higher compared to what we were seeing in 2020, 2021, and 2022, where we were seeing those sub 3% interest rates. But my hope is that at some point in the future, those will decrease. And then a lot of those buyers who are purchasing today will be able to refinance. But the big trick right now is I believe that when we do start to see interest rates decrease at some point in the future, it's bound to happen. When those interest rates decrease, we are going to see a flood of buyers who are going to be entering the market. When that happens, we are going to start seeing multiple offers again. We are going to start seeing those over asking offers, those closing costs, asking the seller for closing costs just isn't going to be happening. We might start seeing contingencies get waived again. This is a much better time for buyers to be purchasing in today's market than it is to be waiting another 4 to 6 months for interest rates to drop when we're going to start seeing a significant increase in the number of buyers who enter in the market. I can give you a really great case study. Last year, from July until about November, we started to see interest rates really start upticking. Now, at that point, they were just getting over 5%. You know, a lot of people right now, they would love to get a 5% interest rate, right? But back then, that was a high interest rate compared to the 2.7s that we were seeing the 2 years previously. So a lot of buyers took their foot off the gas. We started to see demand really slow. The buyers who purchased at that time got really, really, really great deals because once January hit, people were like, okay, well, this is the new normal. We're going to have to start dealing with these higher interest rates. They decided that they were going to actually be in a situation where they needed to purchase a home. They started purchasing in January, February, March, April, May. We started to see prices increase again. We started to see multiple offers again. We weren't able to ask for closing costs. A lot of those higher offers started happening again. They weren't as substantial as what they were towards the end of 2020 and in 2021. But overall, we were starting to see a big uptick in those things. My fear is rates stay the same, buyers have that same realization, and we start seeing things really uptick and prices start increasing. Demand is still there. There's still a huge demand for homeownership in our marketplace, and there's more people moving to the Rochester area every single day. This is a growing marketplace, so it's going to be that way for a long time. You are not going to be doing yourselves any favors by waiting to purchase real estate. You might get a slight difference down the road, but you might be able to refinance from where you're at today to that lower rate down the road anyway. So that's kind of my basics of what I expect to see happening here in the market, what I'm seeing from a day-to-day basis. There is definitely more opportunities for buyers right now. We're not seeing as many multiple offers on properties, and you're much more likely to get a better deal overall today than what I was seeing even just 4 or 5 months ago. If you are looking to make a move here to the Rochester area, again, if that is next week, next month, or tomorrow, reach out to me directly. This is something I love teaching people. I just ask that you reach out to me directly. I'm very quick on the response. I'll have my contact information here everywhere. You can call me, you can text me, you can message me. I'm happy to help you make this a smooth move here in the Rochester area and give you your best chance at success. And as always, I'm working real estate today, and I'm in a hurry to serve. Cheers.